Crypto, not looking good today. We have broke that support that I've talked about yesterday was at about 106.5 thousand. This is the weekly time frame, and I've been talking about this pattern for quite some time, and it looks like we are breaking to the downside further. The breakdown target of this rising wedge pattern is about almost 80,000. Will Bitcoin go all the way to 80,000 because that will pause this bull cycle? This very long and twisted bull cycle here this time on hold for quite some time. Unless it just wicks down there and does a 180 very quickly, this could be a pretty dragged out pullback here. Okay, and that's not going to be good for a lot of these altcoins. Now we are seeing some altcoins pumping today, but for the majority of altcoins, which usually dumps when Bitcoin dumps, it's not looking good. Okay, so you want to be paying attention to Bitcoin. It is still the driver of this crypto market. Now let's take a look into the daily time frame here very quickly. And I talked about this head and shoulders pattern yesterday with the support to be about 106.5 thousand or 106,000 in that range. Broke to the downside. The breakdown target for the head and shoulders pattern is going to be about 95,000. Okay. Now, I am still long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, but I am going to be looking for some short opportunities to short Bitcoin and hedge some of my altcoin positions, my altcoin longs. Because even though I am bullish on the longer term, it looks like we could be going sideways or even pulling back in the shorter term. So I will be looking for ways to make money other than just going long. Okay. So this is basically what I'm seeing for Bitcoin. Okay, there is a potential falling wedge pattern. Okay, that could be forming, but right now, I am looking at. I'm expecting more of a downside here. Okay, especially after we lost that daily 200 SMA. That was very important support for quite some time, and we are basically at the weekly 50 SMA, and that is not very strong support in my opinion, because the price action has hit this support for the third time on this trend. And when you keep hitting a support, it gets weaker. I hope I am wrong, but that's how I usually see it. We're going to be taking a look into some major news in the economy as well as crypto before diving into a few altcoin setups, which would include Arweave, Flare Network, Chain Opera AI, which is a request by one of my viewers. If you guys have any requests, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to you for you guys on a daily basis. Now let's go ahead and take a look into some news first. Okay. This is by You Today. Ripple holders refuse to sell. Doge price risk adding zero. I'm not sure what that means. Doge price risk adding zero. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Really, I read that. I read that twice. Bitcoin might lose 100,000. Crypto News Digest. Yes, there is a very good chance that Bitcoin loses 100,000. Okay, but I will. You know, I've been in this. I've been in this trading. I've been trading for 5+ years. This has been a very long and twisted bull market. Unlike 2021, unlike what I have seen in the data from 2017. But I'm still gonna keep going. Okay, I did not come all the way here to give up now, so I'm gonna find ways to survive this market. I will be trying new strategies to hedge my long positions. That's just what I'm doing. What I'm personally doing, it is not financial advice like the entirety of this video. And you guys got to find your own strategies and opinions, but I could throw out ideas what I'm doing in this video and to survive this market right now. So let's go ahead. Bitcoin might lose 100,000. Crypto News Digest. Let's see if there are any key points that are interesting here. Okay, I don't see any. So let's go ahead and go to the next piece. Well, let's see here. This key point right here. Price outlook. Dogecoin may be entering a prolonged bearish phase. Okay, that's not good. Analyst insight. Ali Martinez noted that Doge now trades within a long-term descending channel. As with a lot of these more classic altcoins, right, that has been around for quite some time, I am seeing a rejection and then a downtrend, right? There has been failed breakouts, as we have seen for the past couple of months. But I'm just gonna say, hang in there. It is not a. I mean, I am not giving up, and I hope you guys aren't either. Especially if you guys been around for quite some time, especially throughout last year. Right, last year was tough. This year has been there's. I mean, this year has been tough as well. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Let's go ahead and go to the next piece, which is by Dow Jones Newswires. This says Bitcoin extends losses on U.S. rate cut doubts market talk. Now, this headline is kind of inaccurate because I am seeing a increase in probability of the Fed rate cuts to 70% today. After the FOMC meeting, we were about in the low 60s, but we have increased in probability of a Fed rate cut, which is still one of my main arguments for why this bull cycle is still very much on, is because the Fed has started cutting rates in September, and it looks like we're going to get a few more, okay, based on the CME Watch tool here, which has been very accurate. So based on December, as of today, is 70%. Now, these probabilities do change, so very important to be monitoring what's happening. January still looks like an overwhelming chance of a Fed rate cut. March, okay, you guys can see. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next piece here, which is by Be In Crypto. BlackRock's $213 million Bitcoin move exacerbates fears of sub 100,000 drop. Let's read a little bit into this because it could be significant. What is BlackRock doing with $213 million worth of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's latest slide to 103.5 has reignited market jitters, revisiting the price level last seen in June and fueling fears of a deeper drop below 100,000. The move comes amid renewed selling pressure tied to institutional activity, most notably BlackRock's $213 million Bitcoin transfer to Coinbase. So when we see more Bitcoin on the exchanges like Coinbase, that is usually a sign that there's going to be selling pressure, because when these institutions move their crypto to exchanges, chances are it's going to be a sell. Okay, not 100%, but chances are. Okay, let's read a little bit more into this. BlackRock's move raises eyebrows. According to on-chain data, BlackRock moved over 2,000 Bitcoin and over 22,000 Ethereum to Coinbase on Tuesday during early hours of the U.S. session. Could there be a dump? Is BlackRock planning on dumping this? I guess we're gonna keep our eyes open. All right, let's come over here to altcoin setups. We're gonna be taking a look, first of all, into Chainopera AI, which is a request by one of my viewers. I talked about on the daily time frame that there was a falling wedge pattern, or even on a smaller time frame. Okay. Falling wedge pattern, price target was $19. Chainopera AI, Co-AI, basically hit that target and some more before getting a huge rejection. Now, I want to add that when Bitcoin is not looking like it has a clear path, especially on the upside, I'll be very quick to take profits. Okay, that's just my opinion, because unless Bitcoin has a very clear path upwards, I'll be a lot more careful with these moves to the upside and be very quick to take profits. So I would personally have a very clear plan on taking profits right? I was not in this coin, sadly, right? I missed the boat because I'm already overwhelmingly long on quite a bit of my altcoin positions. Until I get some dry powder, I don't think I would add any more long positions at this time. Now, it hit about $25 before getting a huge rejection. That's crazy. Okay, it's crazy. And let's take a look here. What could be happening with Chainhopper AI? What I'm seeing on the 6-hour time frame is a falling wedge pattern, a falling channel, excuse me, which works almost in the same way as a falling wedge pattern. It is still a bullish pattern that has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. There's quite a bit of bullish divergence right now, even on the 6-hour time frame. Something to be keeping an eye out on, because bullish divergence usually means that there is going to be a bounce. Okay, how big of a bounce, that is yet to that's not indicative of, but I can't really say how big of a bounce, but that usually means that there's going to be a bounce. Okay, now, like I said, falling channel pattern. Price target here is going to be about $44 if it breaks out by this point, for example. Now, price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less, a lot of which does depend on what happens with Bitcoin, okay? If Bitcoin starts dumping from here, these altcoin pumps, they're not going to last very long. So very important to be keeping an eye out on Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and go to Arweave. Let's see what's happening with Arweave here. Weekly time frame. Falling wedge pattern. Arweave broke out of this falling wedge pattern. There was a double bottom pattern from within the falling wedge pattern that basically is invalidated because it has made a lower. I mean, it basically closed below those double bottoms, right? However, this falling wedge pattern breakout still valid. Price action is still above this upward trend line here of this pattern it broke out of. That's not uncommon to see a breakout of a falling wedge pattern and price action goes down just because of the amount of resistance that's above the breakout, including the weekly 21 SMA here. Price target for this breakout is going to be about $39. That is an estimate. There is also bullish divergence on this weekly time frame. Let's see if Arweave can meet that price target. All your weekly moving averages are going to be acting as resistance on this time frame. So some things to be keeping an eye out on. Daily time frame. Also, quite a bit of bullish divergence that could be playing out. Your daily moving averages are going to be some of your key resistance on this time frame. Okay, there could still be potentially a cup and handle pattern here at about $4.85. If Arweave comes back up to retest $4.85 on this daily time frame twice, that could potentially finish a cup and handle pattern, which is a bullish pattern that usually breaks to the upside. Let's go ahead and go to Flare Network, FLR, and see what's happening with this market. Weekly time frame. There are still bullish signals here, including a breakout of a falling wedge pattern that is still valid because the price action is still above that upper trend line. I talked about a double bottom pattern that is still valid with bullish divergence. The double bottom pattern here, which has a higher price target, has a neckline at about 3.9 cents. Price target would be about 6.5 cents. However, very important for Flare Network to not invalidate this double bottom pattern, because if it actually closes below about a 1.2 cents weekly candle close, that will invalidate this this double bottom pattern, and that's not going to be looking good. Could there still be bullish divergence if it actually goes down to about 1.2 cents? Potentially. But invalidating a double bottom pattern is not good. Okay, so let's take a look into a shorter time frame and see what Flare Network could be doing. This is the daily time frame, there is a smaller falling wedge pattern here. Okay. Falling wedges are bullish patterns that usually predict to the upside, a lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin at this point, right? Especially with the bearish momentum that's happening in Bitcoin. Now, if it breaks out by this point, for example, price target for Flare Network would be about 2.1 cents. A lot of daily moving averages that are going to be resistance if it breaks out. Let's see if it breaks out, and let's see if it meets that price target. Got to consider the downside of every pattern and every move, basically, because even though these patterns have a higher chance of breaking in one direction, they still have a smaller chance of breaking the other direction. We're all just talking about probabilities here. Now, this basically wraps up for this video for Flare Network, Arweave, and Chainopera AI. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.